Hi everyone, and welcome to SaaStock Sessions. Our topic today is bridging the gap between sales and finance with integrations, 5 key steps. So we have a jam-packed schedule for you today filled with wisdom and practical takeaways for your businesses. Who do we actually have here today? Say hello in the staged chat, give us a wave. We do actually have 2 chat bars in this event. So one chat is for the whole event and one is specifically for this stage. If you keep the toggle on the stage section, you can see everything that is being said live, and that is where you need to keep your eyes out. That is where the juicy stuff is happening. So put your name, company, where you're tuning in from, the time, the weather, anything at all. We love to see new faces in our sessions. Even if I can't technically see your faces, let us know if you are a SaaStock Sessions enthusiast or a newbie. So I can see Alex Balding, one of my co-workers, he's tuning in from Barcelona. Alex from London. Lally is from Barcelona. Mark near York. Lovely, lovely. Love to see all these people tuning in from around the world. So I am Lizzie Winnell. I'll be your host today. I am an event operations manager at SaaStock. In case you aren't familiar with SaaStock, in case you are actually a newbie in SaaStock Sessions, SaaStock is a B2B SaaS events company. We help SaaS businesses gain traction, scale, and grow through our events, memberships community, and media and content. So we've been running for several years now, previously coordinating all in-person conferences, and due to COVID-19, we have had to pivot online. We did this because we wanted to keep the SaaS community connected and up to date with the latest trends and information. So, SaaStock Sessions, what is it? It is SaaStock's very own webinar. They run for an hour or so with a networking segment after our chosen speaker's presentation. Each session is brought to you by a thought leader or expert from our network. I'm just going to check if we've got any other people saying hello. Jackie from based in Brighton. I love that. I love Brighton. It's got a great beach down there. So for this session, we have partnered up with Celigo, and we have their VP of Strategy, Mark Simon, speaking here for you all today. So Mark actually has over 20 years of experience in the tech industry, and he began his career as a software developer in 1997, building e-commerce applications and custom integrations. Prior to joining Celigo in 2018, Mark worked with an impressive range of companies across several different industries. Now, among many, many other tasks I'm sure that Mark has, he works on the creation and execution of Celigo's sales strategy and customer journey. There is Mark saying hello to everyone. Love that. So Mark will be taking you through the 5 key integrations you need to implement in order to avoid the difficulties of disconnect between your sales and your finance teams, and ultimately achieve optimum sales and finance efficiency. So after Mark's presentation, we will take some questions from the audience. We encourage you to ask these throughout his talk, and we will try and come back to as many of them as we can at the end. So we'll also be keeping Hopin open for a little bit longer after the presentation and the questions, and this is to enable one-on-one networking between you all. This is a great opportunity for you to meet others in the industry who might be experiencing some of the same issues that you are. If you haven't used Hopin before, here's some housekeeping tips to make sure you have the best experience possible. So number 1, make sure you're using Google Chrome. This is the most compatible browser with Hopin. Number 2, if any audio or video goes awry, then try a quick refresh. This will usually sort out the issue for you. And number 3, if you are going to take part in the networking segment of today, please allow camera and microphone access. I can see we've got another person doing a little hello from the audience. Renee, I hope I've said your name right. I severely apologize if I have not. I am English, we butcher everything. So I'm sure you're all super keen to get started. So I would like to welcome Mark onto our stage. Mark, if you go ahead and click share audio and video. Hi Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Lizzie, for the fantastic introduction.
No problem. That's what I'm here to do. Where are you tuning in from, and what time is it for you?
I am joining everybody from Seattle, Washington, in the United States. So I'm just getting started on my day here.
And very impressive that you're up so early. I think I would need about a million coffees to do what you're doing. So I will leave you to it. The stage is yours, Mark.
All right. Thank you very much. Lizzie, you did a great job there with the introduction. Continuing with that a little bit, as you heard, I'm the VP of Strategy here at Celigo. And really, if I look back on the last 15 years of my career, it's really been focused on working with mid-market and high-growth SMBs on their digital transformation, essentially. And in that journey, big focus on automation, and in the heart, a lot of that automation was integration, and that's really what brought me to Celigo to focus on that integration side. Here at Celigo, we are an integration platform as a service company, and we focus on being the foundation for our customers' automation efforts through integration. But we'll get to our topic here: bridging the gap between sales and finance with integration, and looking at 5 of the key steps. So just laying out the agenda here really quick, we'll look at common business processes that we see for software companies. We'll talk a little bit about the different methods of integration. We'll look at, and then we'll get to the hardest things after we set that stage, which are, what are the 5 key integrations we see SaaS companies really looking at and engaging on right now? And this often answers the big question: where do we start? And then we'll cap things off with just talking briefly about how to build a roadmap for your integration and automation journey. So when we look at digital transformation in filling the gaps between business systems teams like sales and finance, it really all comes down to business processes. And as we all know, those business processes are absolutely critical. They form the foundation. They're really the operating system of any enterprise. And as a company, as you add more and more applications in your organization, we see fragmentation beginning to occur, and it starts to split your business processes apart. It's amazing right now in this world, the number and quantity of SaaS applications that are out there. As everyone here knows, obviously, it's amazing, the true proliferation of apps, and the problems you can solve very quickly it's amazing for everything from small high growth companies up through huge enterprises. But along with that, we start to get some unintended consequences, so to speak, and it has a big impact on how efficient your business processes are. So when one of the key blockers for growth that we see with our customers in the industry is the need to reduce that fragmentation from those within those applications, and automation of the business processes is really a key foundation to that. So let's take a look at a few of the business processes for SaaS companies. These are kind of broken out into several of the areas that we typically see right now. Suspect to prospect. What we're looking at there is connecting marketing activities with sales. This is the marketing automation, lead gen tools, getting those connected into your CRM platform. This is an early focus for a lot of companies to get this to get the engine running, so to speak, of the order to cash engine primed and running. And then the next one, and this is the order to cash process, and this is where we see very often the first automation steps taking place for SaaS companies is getting the quote to cash, getting something in place to quote to cash to increase that efficiency and decrease booking times. And we'll talk about a couple of the integrations there because this is a big one where we're spending a great deal amount of time with our customers. Moving on from that, we have collaboration, and this is something we're seeing a huge change in the world of business systems. So if you just look at some of the applications that now probably all of us wonder how we could live without a Slack or a Microsoft Teams, and you see how those can change how an integration interacts. You can take those tools a step further and integrate those with your business systems and have alerts pushed automatically, and really depends on your organization's philosophies around those. But getting those collaboration and alerts connected can bring a great deal of efficiency to organizations. And then we see, moving on to issue to resolution, that's getting your customer support connected in with the rest of the organization, making sure that you have the customer 360 view available in the right locations and available to everyone that's customer facing in the organization. Then we often see organizations starting to look at, beyond that, looking at subscription to billing, automating your billing operations. And this can take a lot of forms, especially for SaaS companies. You may be on annual contracts, you may be month to month, it could be usage based. We see everything out there, or a combination of all of the above. And this is one that is often a very key area for scale. So it's kind of left to be often a little rough during getting things started in a lot of organizations. We're proving things out, getting revenue in the door early, but it's often a blocker to scaling, and often at different points that some of those initial billing solutions are not the ones that are needed for growth. So those change and shift, and as they do, we see a lot of integration movement there, and improvement in the integration processes around those. And we see work there bringing incredible ROI for companies. And then later in the journey, typically bringing in procure to pay for SaaS companies, we see this often as kind of a later area of integration, but it really depends on your particular business. And we see in some cases that integration there taking place a lot earlier around expense management and procurement. And then finally, getting to hire to retire, which is our applicant tracking systems, getting human capital management integrated, identity management. These are things that typically we see a little bit later stage, when organizations are really starting to scale out, putting more effort there. But again, we see this automation and integration coming to play in there early and earlier. In the same thing with operational to analytics. This is a big one of interest. I think everybody's followed along likely, and at least it's hard to not hear about some of the big successes in the data warehousing industry. The need for business intelligence is so critical to organizations, and this is very often something we saw coming, if I think back several years ago, or even 10 plus years ago in business, often coming pretty late, cross system analytics. And this we're seeing happening earlier and earlier in an organization's growth, and often many organizations making key investments in this, to the point of bringing on data scientists, data engineering teams, much earlier in their growth than we saw previously. And in order to facilitate that requires a lot of integration to make that seamless and efficient. But it's often a competitive advantage for SaaS companies. So if we dive into those business processes a little bit more, we see that every one of those business processes is centered around applications. Almost exclusively SaaS applications. And with that proliferation of these great SaaS apps out there, we see that each department choosing essentially best of breed. Everybody wants the best tools available. There's amazing tools out there, And there's often very, very specialized tools out there that solve unique problems quickly and easily, and that's fantastic. And that leads to some amazing efficiency in ways. But with that increasingly easy deployment and implementation of those solutions, we often end up foregoing thinking about the integration side of things, or it comes later. And so what we end up there is with these apps sitting in silos. And those silos tend to be centered around what we call foundational apps. So if we look at, let's take a look at the quote to cash process here in the middle. And the foundational app in this case is typically your ERP system. And that system is kind of the cornerstone. And then we have the other applications that are often sitting around that. And we can end up with the data siloed within the different apps, and not very common not to see that moving efficiently between there. Or sometimes there's, and we'll talk about the different types of integrations later, but sometimes it's integrated in a kind of with what's available, so to speak. And that can get things up and running, but very, very often doesn't scale at all. And so the resulting is these silos and back to the fragmentation of your data. And that becomes a big impediment to growth and efficiency. So a lot of great applications, but if you don't connect them, the fragmentation is a big drag on the efficiency you would otherwise see with those. So if we dive into one of these business processes, for example, quote to cash, we see, let's break it down to some common steps. These all don't necessarily apply to everybody. It depends highly on your exact business processes and model, but these are some of the ones that we see. So going from quotes, quoting, sending a proposal, booking the sales order, approving that, provisioning, invoicing and collecting payment. If we look at all those steps, that may cross 5 or 6 different applications between CRM. Maybe there's a CPQ solution tacked onto the CRM or embedded. Your digital signature solution. Now we're back to the CRM to review the order, getting that over into the ERP. You might have an entitlement system. You might have a billing system that's within or adjacent to ERP. We look at all these, you have multiple apps for this very foundational process. And if the data is not flowing between those, it's a big drag on organizational efficiency. And what that results in is, as you grow as an organization, instead of processing time for orders here from the your quoting to cash process, instead of getting more efficient or taking less time as you grow as an organization, if you're not thinking about planning for and implementing a good automation and integration strategy, you end up with the processing time actually taking longer. And so you're using more resources. And if you start to say, oh, well, we're going to ramp, if you've got to ramp up staff at a very linear rate in order to scale to higher order volume, that's always a key sign that you have an automation gap, and likely, very likely, almost always an integration problem at the core. So again, back to fragmentation. So that cost of fragmentation comes up in several areas: a lack of visibility. You can't make data decisions in a timely manner in your organization. You've got a lack of data integrity. And this comes from manual processes. So you've got these systems, very often people are moving data back and forth in a very manual manner. With that, it's going to result in mistakes. And this lack of data integrity can show up in different ways as an organization scales. Early on, you might be looking at something you have no integration somewhere, and you might take a first pass and integrate it, but you're looking at the standard use cases, or doing some initial integration that might actually cover almost all your use cases. But as the business grows, scales, the business processes evolve like they do in a very fast-changing business environment. Now your integration hasn't caught up. You have new business processes that aren't covered. Those are now handled manually. You're back to a lack of data integrity. So this is something that has to be revisited continually as you grow in an organization, and it requires the right strategy to make sure that you can be flexible, adaptable, and agile as the organization grows. All of those together, that lack of the visibility, lack of data integrity, leads to a lack of efficiency. Again, if you have to add more, the need to add more bodies to scale out is a key indicator of that. And then all these mean that you've got a lack of agility, and as a business, you can't move fast enough if you don't have that visibility, integrity, and efficiency around your data and your processes. And that ultimately becomes a stumbling block for scalability and growth. And we see organizations starting to hit some walls around those, and having to get over that wall in order to scale out efficiently. So the cure to that fragmentation is becoming a connected enterprise. And when we see business processes that are spanning multiple business apps, it's very clear that the automation of those business processes require integration at its core. Without integration, you simply cannot become a connected enterprise. So let's look at some of those options for connected enterprise. The first one is leveraging API-based custom coding. So this is the let's call it the old school approach, and we see this still occurring in organizations of any size now. And this is literally someone in the organization or a team that is essentially hand coding integration, hand coding the movement of data from one app to another. Not often not leveraging any kind of platform or tool. And it can solve problems in the short term, but it doesn't scale, and it's brittle and hard to maintain. The next one we see is some point-to-point solutions that are integration solutions that are focused on solving a really narrow problem. Those can be handy as you're growing, and sometimes you just need a quick fix. You can throw those in place, and that can work initially, but they're often a black box, and there's no capability for those solutions to adapt to your changing business needs or processes. And we see organizations having unable to move their business processes forward and adapt those because they're limited from some of their legacy integration choices. So that's often not a good solution. And then the third area that we see is vendor built. And this is one that I think the most common scenario I see this is in the sales ecosystem. So the apps surrounding CRM. So we see something like a Salesforce, and for a typical sales team using Salesforce, they don't just use Salesforce as their CRM. They use a suite of solutions that are all built around that, and those typically have built-in integrations that allow them to quote plug in to the CRM. That can be a very efficient way to go. It can get things up and running, and it typically works for a while, but it can lead to a lot of problems there as you scale, because they have to build those integrations to the least common denominator, and they may not fit your business processes. And again, they're often very much a black box. And so when they don't fit, you can run into a hard wall. And if you don't have another integration solution, it can really restrict growth. So what's the solution to that? And that's leveraging an iPaaS, an integration platform as a service, and in using an iPaaS as the foundation for your integration. So an iPaaS standardizes how applications and data are corrected connected across an organization. This gives you a hub for your data, a blueprint, and a mechanism to put guardrails in place for integration. And it also allows you, when you're using a singular platform, it's much easier to guarantee data delivery. Governance and compliance become dramatically easier. And what you see with that is a lower cost of maintenance and greater reliability with the consistent use of built-in monitoring and management and centralized errors and recovery processes. So this is the way forward for an organization, and it's not just black or white. Some of those, we very often see organizations adopting an iPaaS while they still retain some of those integrations. As you evolve, move forward, reach a stumbling block with some of those other methods, then you migrate those into the more flexible option, the iPaaS, and move on from there. So it's not necessarily an either or, it's a hybrid until the iPaaS takes over. So let's look at some of the 5 steps to back to sales and finance, but 5 steps to get them working better together. So step 1, automate the sales orders to billing process, where we see almost everyone starting. Streamline customer billing. This has a big impact on some of your key financial metrics. We can see this leading to often relatively small efforts here, leading to fantastic returns in improving DSO and in improving cash position for a company. Then we look at implementing automated collections, integrate payments and payout reconciliation, and then let's look at getting more financial visibility for sales to increase their efficiency. So jumping into the first here, automating sales orders to billing. If we look at this, we can see that by doing this, if we look at a manual process, we can have conflicting data, lack of data integrity, lower time to close. And then when we move to automation, we can end up with standardized, formatted, and get from data flowing from signed contract into the system with a provisioned customer in a matter of minutes, often, depending on your processes, versus what we can frequently see days otherwise. And this has a big impact on customer experience, but also that internal efficiency. You simply find and catch errors much faster. We also see increased profitability by the reduction of the manual steps and reducing time that the sales reps are spending on data entry or fixes or moving data around can be brought way down, and very commonly we see that in the 40 to 50% range. Typically, the team owning this is operations or revenue operations. And where we recommend starting is looking at that, getting those orders from the CRM into either your ERP or your billing system. Almost always we see this commonly as integration number 1 for a SaaS company. And then closely following that, we very often see automating the licensing provisioning. So taking your approved orders in your system of record for your orders, the ERP or billing, and then integrating that to your entitlement system. And that may be a custom solution that's part of your product backend. That might be a standalone product, but getting that integration in place gets that the customers their product, what they bought, what they just purchased, into their hands sooner and faster. And this also addresses some key revenue recognition problems that can occur if you scale out and you've got too much time delay there. So moving beyond, let's look at streamlining the billing process. This is one that we can see sometimes just taking taking a huge amount of time in an organization that's highly manual. And one of the things that an automation project like these does is it forces you to really look at your business processes. And if you have a lot of steps where, when you look at it from an automation perspective, that you can't automate, that's a key indicator that you should really examine that. And the answer isn't necessarily that all use cases need to be automated immediately and right now. It's certainly, depending on your business, your customers, your product. You might have unique use cases that require a more manual, high touch effort, and they're worth it on your business side. It's a key business advantage for you. But it's very important to look at that and ask that question. Be like, oh, if I can't automate this, are we getting value here from that? Are we getting value from this higher touch process? And very often that answer is no. And if no, then you should really strongly look at how to optimize and fix that business process. And then that leads to the ability to automate and integrate. And the entire cycle then becomes highly valuable for iterating and improving the business along the way. As you go through the billing process here, we see DSO coming down with this. We see improvement of data quality and reduced billing errors. And we see accounting resources being able to focus on high value tasks instead of low ones. And this can provide a great deal of efficiency as well. And if you're embarking here, what we really recommend you start to look at is integrations to your payment gateways. If you're doing your credit card or some type of ACH or bank to bank transfers, giving customers really good integrated options for paying their invoices, getting your subscription solution integrated tightly to billing. If it's not within your ERP, getting it integrated to ERP, and then really looking at those business systems if they are external, and ensuring that you've got really good data flow there. And then the next step where we often see recommend looking at here is the collection automation process. So typically looking and examining how you can get the notices to customers that are in arrears, that are late, and get those automated, and get the key activities in finance around those to run more efficiently, and in using integration to help facilitate that. One of the things here we see is sometimes it's just a lack of awareness, to be perfectly honest, and making sure that anyone in a customer-facing role has the right visibility if there's a financial problem with a customer. If they're simply raising awareness, we've seen lead to incredible gains in efficiency and collection. So making sure that support has visibility into this. If customers in threat of being deactivated because they're late, the support team see that. Is professional services aware? Let's hope that sales is aware, but are they aware in a very automated fashion? Getting everybody that's customer facing some of this key information really can have a massive impact on that process. And obviously, it's not just awareness. You have to train them and give them some guidance on what to do, because that's often a sensitive topic, and varies how to handle it based on the organization and how you handle maybe your customer segmentation internally. But it all starts with visibility to that data. So Integrating payments and payment reconciliation as a step here is our fourth one. And this is where we look at and often see a lot of organizations having to revisit it as they scale, because we typically see a lot of hours of manual work happening here, a lot of data quality issues, and this is often comes up in manifests as inability to close your books. Are the books taking too long? Oh, it's taking too long to reconcile X. That should be an indicator. Hey, let's look at the integrations that are taking place around reconciliation. So getting your data from maybe a payment gateway, from a financial partner, reconciling that to your ERP. There's a tremendous amount that can be done to integrate and perform automated matches on the vast majority of those, so your teams are focused only on the exceptions. And if you can implement that with a few points of integration, you can typically see very big gains in efficiency. And then our fifth one here that we're going to talk about is creating financial visibility for sales. And this is one where we typically see, for SaaS companies, we see getting product usage data, getting that back up into the CRM. So the sales team, account managers, renewals team, they can see what's happening in the product. Is this customer underutilizing a subscription? Well, if they are, when it comes around to renewal, they could potentially be a churn risk. They could be a risk of a downsell. And then conversely, on the positive side, you might see a big uptick in utilization, and having a good visibility into that, having that in the CRM, those inflection points for customers gives you the ability for your team to engage, make sure they're supported, present the right opportunities to make sure that they've got maybe an upsell in front of them too, so that you can stay ahead of the customer's needs. This one is an area where one or two flows can have a very big impact on your revenue. The other one here is getting financials data back up into the CRM, again for more visibility for those customer-facing roles, that they can see exactly what's going on with the customer financials, details of billing, what they've been billed, when, how they paid. Getting a little more of that visibility we've seen a great efficiency there, and improvements for customer experience. They can simply get answers from whoever they're talking to instead of needing to go being redirected to a billing team or finance. So kind of wrapping up here, what next? So some of these you're interested. Hey, this looks good. How do we go about integrating? What do we do? And the key is building out an integration roadmap for your business. You don't have to do everything at once. In fact, that's not the right way to do things. But it's key to have a plan so that you can think about integration and be efficient and prioritize the efforts. So as step one, we recommend that you map out all your business processes and list out all the applications. So build a map. When we all used to be able to get into conference rooms together and be in front of a whiteboard, but you can just as easily do this on a collaboration tool or on a piece of paper. But what systems are in play? Are you aware of all your SaaS systems? Start with the foundational ones. Start with key ones around that, and then look at how those business processes are interfacing between those. As you do that, you'll identify slow, resource-intensive, error-prone processes, essentially your big pain points. So tag those, and very often you'll see things that are problems that maybe everyone wasn't aware of, and very likely you will. And then as you go through that, identify critical data that must be 100% accurate and timely. Typically transactional, financial related data. Highlight those because those are an area to focus on early. And then once you've done those 3 steps, you now kind of know the key areas that you need to look at for automation, and then start calculating the ROI for those. Are we looking at saving a labor cost of actually a manual process of doing something? Is it the labor cost of resolving errors and the quantified impact to customer experience? Or and look at those, start putting some numbers on those, and once you have those, it's often eye-opening how much is being spent that you didn't even realize. And then from there, you can start to prioritize these integrations, and then look at automation solutions, and obviously adopting an iPaaS is what we recommend. And you have a good starting point then to evaluate your total cost of ownership. So I appreciate everybody listening in here, and I hope we can jump into a few questions.
I've come on just in time. Hi, Mark. I can see one question about, is it possible to have a copy of the presentation afterwards? Would you feel comfortable sharing that?
Certainly, yes.
Awesome. Well, any other questions, do fire them away. Otherwise, any final questions at all? If not, then Mark, I will just ask you, what would you say perhaps are your 3 main takeaways that you'd like to give people, those 3 key bits of information?
I think a key one should be that integration is critical for growing your business at any stage. Don't leave it until you have an acute problem in hand. If you can be ahead of time, a little bit ahead on this, it will provide huge returns. And third one is, it's never as hard as you think. Pick something, start there. The modern tools that are available now make integration accessible, not just to developers, but to business analysts and tech-savvy business users. And that means everybody can start somewhere, and increase the efficiency of your business. You'll be surprised at what you can do.
Amazing, thanks, Mark. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions here today, and it is now getting closer to the end of the event. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope everyone can show some appreciation for Mark, as it is bright and early for him. So thanks so much, and everybody do head over to the networking area, match with your peers. It is a lot of fun, I promise you. We have a great bunch of people here today, so go make some new friends or connect with current ones.
Thank you, Lizzie. It was great to have the opportunity. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Thank you, everyone.